Well, Alex Jones on the bullshit that's going on right now in this ragged some bitch. And I can say one thing about America. Shit, no matter what it is, people still won't come here. Well, I do. We have a big victory today, as you announced at the beginning. We have finally prevailed over the city of Cleveland. We have our permits after going to court, being represented by the liberal ACLU to do so. We have knocked down their restrictions on free speech. We don't need to bring the duct tape to Cleveland and put it over our mouths to demonstrate the outrageousness of their anti-free speech position. So, the rally when you are speaking, I am speaking, many other patriots are speaking, is July 18th at 11 o'clock in the morning at the Settlers Landing Park. We now have a permit from the city of Cleveland. We are scrambling to raise the money to pay for the staging that is required by the city, the public address system we will need, the marshals, and all of the other money you need. We're going to have to raise at least $30,000 to pay for everything soup to nuts. As you know, we stopped our fundraising when stopped negotiating with us. Now we have to gin it back up. Oh, let me just say this. I've already signed a contract, and I went ahead and doubled down two contracts, 30,000 plus 5,000 for the banner in Cleveland, and then 30,000 plus 5,000 for the banner. I've renewed two banners, one's InfoWars, one is Hillary for prison. We're going to mainly probably Hillary for prison, one with the InfoWars back. Sometimes the banners tear after a few flights. But we're going to have planes for 4 days in the air, 2 days each event. Hillary for president, big giant banners. That's a $70,000 investment. I'm taking all the profits from the Hillary for President shirts and putting it into that. But we need to sell the shirts. They're $19.95. We're selling them at full price. Not $5.95 when we were before, $5. That's at cost. I cannot do this, folks, without your support. I've already signed the contracts. Either the money comes in or somebody gets laid off, but that's not going to happen. I know the Patriots are going to come through. Buy your Hillary for President shirts at InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. But I'm doubling down for my country, my kids, everything, Roger. I'm putting 10,000 down right now because this isn't like a political deal where it's limited, right? This is a free speech event. Can I get 10,000? Is correct. There are no limitations whatsoever on what an individual can give. I've got to start hitting the phones very hard to help. Okay, well, listen. Today, want a wire, whatever, $10,000 from InfoWars towards this event.
People desperate for staples like milk, rice, and flour storm the supermarket warehousing around the city.
If you go back to 2007, the British Ministry of Defense came out and echoed a Department of Defense report from here in the U.S. saying that beginning in the year 2016, right through 2020 to 2030, that they believe there would be massive multi-100% food price increases worldwide. And that during that global meltdown, that there would be incredible social unrest that would depopulate much of the earth. Now, in 2016, Vice magazine and other publications are reporting on a 2015 report produced by the U.S. government, the UN, and scores of foreign nations, as well as the State Department, overseen by food giant Cargill, the World Bank, and most importantly, the World Wildlife Fund. The World Wildlife Fund is a eugenics, anti-human organization set up by Prince Bernhard, also found in the Bilderberg Group, that was a Nazi officer. In this new FEMA report, with headline, FEMA contractor predicts social unrest caused by 395% food price spikes, you learn that this is a report filed with governments and major institutions overseen by a contractor that since the 1940s has been the main advisor for the U.S. Navy Marine Corps. Now, all of this said, governments and corporations and institutions are stockpiling food and weapons. They're digging in. They're getting bunkers. Elites are fleeing to places like New Zealand en masse. We've gone from financial meltdown and huge regional wars being a possibility to being a probable to more and more becoming an inevitability. Number one, everybody needs to be able to protect themselves. Everybody needs friends and family they can rely on in crises. And everyone needs high-quality storable foods and high-quality water filtration systems. That we're offering the biggest wide-spectrum sale ever on preparedness items, 20 to 40% at InfoWarsStore.com. On InfoWars Select, high-quality storable foods, the highest quality, the lowest prices, powered by My Patriot Supply. We also sell their food as well, the full spectrum. And all of their water filtration systems across the board, from gravity-fed systems like Alexa Pure and ProPure, shower filters, to survival straws, you name it, it's all 20 to 40% off right through July 4th at InfoWarsStore.com. I know I personally am getting prepared. The warning signs are insane. Take advantage, 20 to 40% off until early next week with the 4th of July holiday special at InfoWarsStore.com. Well, his book came out a few weeks ago with the headline Partners in Crime. And I tell you, this multi-time #1 New York Times best-selling author couldn't have been more dead-on. World Net Daily Books. Dr. Jerome Corsi, who's worked in anti-terrorism, in clandestine consulting operations, who's been involved in international banking, has multiple degrees, of course, top of his class there at Harvard. Good long-term friends for 40 years with Donald Trump. So I couldn't think of someone better in the next 25 minutes we have with him to cover the waterfront, because we have just seen the FBI director about an hour and 30 minutes ago include a press conference where he said no indictment. He will not recommend an indictment, and Lynch said that she would go with his recommendation if she agreed with it, basically. That was the proviso we played on Friday. She said, well, she would recuse herself in case she disagreed with it. She'd have to review it. So Dr. Jerome Corsi joins us to talk about that, to talk about Trump and where all this is going. I have to be honest with the audience, okay? I have never had a more disgusting feeling of dread in my stomach. I actually feel like someone's choking me right now.
Hello, you're through to Pegasus Lifestyle Management. How can I help?
Dying, we've been at funerals.
Great. The aircraft is waiting for you at our nearest airfield. We trust you will be happy, sir.
And I guess to kind of analyze my own psychological perspective, I've been dealing with Clintons for 20 plus years. I know how evil they are. And it really is disheartening to realize that they're about to get even more power and are getting more corrupt as they go along, and have promised to come after the liberty movement and the patriots. And she's starting all these wars, and she's working with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and they've been persecuting Christians and conservatives and veterans and people. I mean, to come to grips with the fact that she looks 3 or 4 times crazier than she did in the 90s.
Let me see what I can do.
And bragging about killing people and lying about, Brian Williams stories about how she's in combat. I mean, there's just not just a feeling. There is a total intellectual understanding, bodily, at a cellular level, of getting ready for a physical fight. I mean, I physically feel like I'm in the parking lot and a guy just pulled a gun on me. That's happened before, back when I was growing up in Dallas. I mean, I have that same feeling of disgust and dread, and not fear. It's more like, get ready. Now, I want to go to Dr. Corsi to discuss this and more. Her communist Chinese connections, all of it. It is incredible. I want to ask Dr. Corsi out of the gates what his view of this, where this is going, and of course his book perfectly timed with the proper names and the research of these partners in crime, Bill and Hillary, what they're planning to do, because I have a gut feeling and intellectual understanding that they are going to get their total wish list now and go for broke. Is that an accurate statement, Dr. Corsi?
I agree with you entirely. I mean, I think what we see today is the fix is in. I mean, clearly, you've got the FBI. Listen carefully to Comey's statement. He basically said Hillary committed a number of crimes and she's guilty of criminal negligence, and yet she's going to escape. She's not going to get indicted for things that normally people like Petraeus and others would have have been prosecuted for, double standard of law, and now Hillary Clinton is clearly tainted goods. It's obvious she lied, that she had classified emails that were transmitted over her server, that she knew about and should have known about, but yet she's not going to be prosecuted. Now, this again is a double standard. And by the way, Alex, the whole thing looks like a setup. I mean, you have Bill Clinton on the tarmac, wink, wink, Loretta Lynch on the CNN, tweeting. They have inside sources. There's going to be no prosecution. Hillary comes in over the holiday and testifying and gives us an interview with the FBI. So here we are immediately after Comey saying no prosecution. Hillary shows up in North Carolina, flying on Air Force One with Barack Obama. The whole thing looked as orchestrated as when Andy Crowley pulled out, the speech that Obama gave after Benghazi during the debate with Romney. It looks completely choreographed. And wink, wink, even Loretta Lynch saying, I'll just accept the recommendation of the FBI. Sure, she already knew the FBI wasn't going to prosecute. Of course she accepted her.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you've been a political insider for a long time. You almost always call it like it is a little bit not after some time. What is the point of rubbing our faces in it? Well, what is the point of acting so incredibly arrogant and Hillary kind of let them eat cake from it, it seems? Or is this just megalomania? Is this just people that have decided as a political class they have Republican establishment covered, they're going to go for broke?
No, I mean, the Clinton attitude, like it was and has been in Europe and the EU, and the United States and every country except for the voters, would be just fine if voters could be ignored. Voters are stupid, they don't know what they're doing, so the elite Clintons were above the law and determined how they can make vast riches, billions of dollars out of the Clinton Foundation, something we would go to jail for doing. How she can violate national security laws with their emails, which even the FBI thinks is negligent, reckless. How are we going to elect a reckless, negligent, incompetent person who can't run a BlackBerry to be president of the United States? But of course, that's all supposed to be washed away because we've got a photo op on Air Force One with Barack Obama and Hillary. They're going to hold hands and kiss the face and tell the people we need to have Hillary for 8 years.
Let me ask you the question. She's claiming she's going to go to the center of elected. But from what I've seen them setting up and their preparations, it looks like the opposite. From your sources and your own political gravitas, if she gets in, what do you expect to happen? Again, my gut tells me leave the country.
Well, I mean, certainly you're right in terms of that she's going to go more to the left. There's no question about it. I mean, Hillary has had Abedin advise her. She was the one who is, I think, the butcher of Libya. I think you're going to find in coming months that Hillary was the one who destabilized Libya, abused women throughout Libya, but it didn't go to the Al-Qaeda terrorists. It's already been clear from that Benghazi investigation we've had, especially the Citizens Commission on Benghazi, made it absolutely clear that Hillary threw Libya into the Gulf. I think with the Clinton Foundation, with things that are proving my book and others, we've got Peter Schweitzer out there as well. Clintons wanted the oil in Libya. They wanted to gain economically with Blumenthal. They didn't care if millions died in the process. You're going to have a Supreme Court that's going to be so far left, it's going to be unimaginable. It's going to be an expansion of government so that we have more government control in every possible area, more climate control, fake science that's going to further destroy the United States' ability to be an industry leader, world leader in coal and oil. Obama's just about shut down the coal industry. Hillary will make sure it's still. I mean, you go issue after issue, and what's going to happen is, and by the way, conservatives, anyone who disagrees with this far leftist agenda, is going to be identified as hate crime, will be put in, concentration camps for thought reform. It'll be criminal to do things like be a climate denier. Meanwhile, Israel's going to be abandoned, thrown to the dogs. Iran's already been given free rein to develop nuclear weapons, and the Iranians are saying they've got 100,000 missiles pointed at Israel. No one's going to stand up under a Clinton administration for Israel. We're going to have deficits that are going to bankrupt average Americans, throw us into a global currency with the TPP and this transatlantic agreement both being ratified in a lame duck session. I think they'll ratify TPP, and then they'll push the transatlantic agreement. Will be into a global world economy, which is the prelude to a global government.
Wow. Well, I kind of feel like we're sitting here, Dr. Corsi, just calmly presiding over the death of the Republic. There were so many signposts, so many indicators of a political class and foreign interest being basically somewhat invincible because of the corruption at the top. But now it seems to be getting worse. I mean, is it accurate that it's getting worse, or do we just know more about it?
Oh, I think it's a combination. I mean, you've done a great deal. We've all worked to expose the corruption, to expose the far left agenda for what it is, which is totalitarianism and an elimination of the Constitution and our free speech. We have a Supreme Court that's going to be unimaginable under Hillary Clinton. You're going to find that, I think, like
the last 100 miles,
Americans are waking up.
any trip is the most difficult.
This agenda, but this is incredible.
I'll go as far as say the last 50.
Hillary Clinton manages to.
I'm talking, you know, in 500 or more miles, because the anxiety level that says I'm almost home.
Right.
You just want to get the fuck home.
Sometimes you get more tired.
Yeah. That's the dangerous part of it. But you know, what happens is the energy in the car picks up.
Right.
Everybody, because when everybody's off 50 miles, matter of fact, everybody's energy picked up when we hit Texas. You know, we came Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. 5 states, nigga.
And why this is. And once again, that goes to show you how much love can keep you up. Because when you in a house with bad negative, everybody's asleep. And when you get close to the motherfucking spot, everybody's still asleep.
Everybody was asking, when does he Texas boy? I said, it's coming up. Boy, when it's everybody in the car got this, oh, we're in Texas. But we still out of my fucking wall waiting to go, nigga. Do you hear me, man? We still out over we still at 200 miles to go.
Yo, it just hit the stomach.
Woo! And you know, that's why I said, this is where you gotta suck it up. But we see, when you leave in Texas, when we leave Waco, we hit this highway 31. Anyway, it's back roads, but your destination won't get to 20 to get you to Louisiana, you know, northern Louisiana. So, on the dying Sauron's phone said, look, when y'all get to a certain point on 31, you can hit the tollway 49 and get you to Highway 20 in, man, God's in about 30 minutes. We normally would taking about an hour. Because we had to slide through all these towns. That tollway, and guess what they do? They charge $1 service fee and $1 to ride it, and they send it to your mail. $2, you need $2. You can get $2 toll, no, it was $4. We came back on it. But when we was on 20, because we only had done it one way, and we had never seen off 20 because we never looked for it. So then we was running, and my cousin, we passed by 2 familiar exits. My cousin said, that's the exit because she used to live in Longview. 31, that's where we used to always ride to Waco. Take that one. But I take it to every motherfucking town. Me and my sister said, well, fuck that. She called her and said, we're going 49. We're going to look for 49. So, man, then we passed the exit. My mother familiar. That's my exit. We passed that one. I said, I know something. We rolled on it coming out. We know we know on it coming back in. Come back in. It puts you 9 miles from 31. Man, it's a beautiful thing. Man, it's just freaky how people be thinking of ways to get you shorter ways to a freeway, nigga. Cause see, and then they got this shit called bypasses. You hear bypasses? When you drive, you hear bypasses? What it does, bypass you to the motherfucking city. You go around the motherfucking city. In Shreveport, Bossier City, they got a bypass, man. You don't pass through Bossier City, Shreveport. You go right through, boom. And man, that's a beautiful thing because, sometimes you don't want to deal with that motherfucking traffic. Cause you know, Bossier City and people, that's gambling. That's where everybody is for the gambling. So man, the last night, man, it's getting dark now. 20 miles away, 49 don't seem like it's coming. You feel me? Well, I said, and so when we finally got 49, I'm gonna say this to everybody. Getting to 49 was for the benefit of the driver. To make it easy on me. I done logged almost $1,000 in this car today in mine. So, everybody said, you're right. Everybody, yeah, you're right. That's right, you know. That's for my benefit. Ain't for y'all benefit. Shit, I'm driving these motherfuckers. Shit. And when I put it in there, like my sister she was my co-pilot. Cause she was tired of hearing Mom and Wanda in the back seat bitching about what exit we should have taken, you know. And she was there, shit. Ooh, she said, I mind Mama. Ooh, Mama. It was cool. We got the 49. It was smooth. Bro, you'll never have an experience in your life when you're riding in a vehicle with 3 women that happen to be your mama, your sister, and your first cousin. It's like your sister. Brother, every kind of emotion, wisdom emotion, you know, lesbian emotion, and a frustrated, divorced, not divorced yet, female. That's just all bullshit in the car, dog. Only shit ain't bullshit is mama. That's the only voice I listen to. I always say, Mama. Let me just say this, Mom. This is the best way to go.
She went to great pains to set up this separate email system, and she did it for a reason. The reason she did it was to evade all the government scrutiny, the FOIA requests, and to be able to pad her personal piggy bank with the Clinton Foundation, with all kinds of emails shared between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation, where they could cash in on her various decisions, selling State Department decisions. Of course, all of this is
fucked up. Going down that motherfucker. But Montgomery, Alabama, where they did the march from Montgomery to Memphis. We got Montgomery. I miss him. I went right past 231. They had construction in that motherfucker. It was all one motherfucking lane. I really couldn't see where I need the motherfucker go because shit was fucked up. And my co-pilot was constantly sleep on the motherfucking top. Hey, you know, you ain't a wide awake. Fuck it, you sleep. Hey, I gotta do my. So I missed that shit. And right now, man, the co-pilot got back on the job. Man, we had to go back up. We had to come back. We had to come back up. That shit in Montgomery. Hit 85 going to Atlanta for like a minute. Get off of this Rogers Street and come back up this motherfucker. I was 50 motherfucking miles out the fucking way. I had to drive that 50 miles plus. I lost 100 miles on the fucking deal by the time I got back. Man, 12-hour ride turned 14 hours. You fuck up. I had 2 hours to the bullshit, man. I'm pulling in. I should be pulling in to Valdosta, Georgia, midnight. I pulled that motherfucker 2:30 in the motherfucking morning. Bruh. I paid y'all for my dietary. Man, look, I just do it. Shit. My energy just be up. And everybody's out. Motherfuckers dead tired of college ride. Just be women. You know what I mean? You guys expect them to be on the ball all the time. They sleep and they wake up. This motherfucker me up on my sister. She wake up and go to direct that shit and sleep for 30, 40 motherfucking minutes. Wake up, try to direct the nigga. And I said, yeah. You should have been directing about 50 miles ago, shit. Where you at now? Boy. It was memorable. memorable experience. We got that line, man. Have a fucking ball. God damn, that's fucked up. Boy, you don't realize that car just squashed like it would look like hit by the boom. It was squashed. That motherfucker was squashed up like.
Sending defective drugs to AIDS victims in Africa, stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from the Unity Fund through the UN, filing fraudulent financial statements for their foundation. I mean, this is the real crime. This is the real stealing. You know, these are two grifters, Bill and Hillary Clinton. They have a trail behind them that stinks to high heaven of criminal activity and getting away with it. You know, they go, no, I didn't really have sex with that woman. No, I didn't really violate any laws with my emails. Well, I didn't really benefit myself all that much from the Clinton Foundation. All lies. And this is the beginning. The American people don't understand. Go with Donald Trump, saying that she's crooked, the system is rigged, it's time to stop
Hey,
it.
baby. Oh, GQ.
Right.
I'm going to put you in the magazine.
The elite just need to be thrown out. And this is a time when if the elite win now, there won't be a reversal of their control, domination, and push to totalitarianism.
And we're not being rhetorical here. We're not, you know, engaging in rhetoric. We're not.
Shit's getting tight and shit, man.
And I think people in the government, corporations, the general
Oh, yeah.
government have all start resisting.
She look like she don't have sex. That's what she look like. That's what she exudes. Oh, Elaine will read her in a minute. You know that? Like I said, so
really moving towards some type of emergency.
you talking about hitting that or something? She asked me something like that. You talking about hitting with that?
Clearly they're gearing up
Hell
for
no.
arrest. While they create an atmosphere that helps
She's my daughter's age.
while they
35 years old.
these leftist groups
Shit.
to target local government. I mean, you look at this.
I'll be looking on my ass. I gotta get to my pocket. What happened? Shit. There's some money underneath my printer. I was cleaning that thing earlier. I saw this deep money. Stuck it right back under there. Still there. Ooh, I forgot my phone didn't it?
Expression which should be allowed in the First Amendment to be an objector of whole science, climate change, and by the way, plastic. Right now, that's the next thing to expect.
All right, Partners in Crime, the book, Roll That Daily Book, WG.com. We'll come back soon to talk about their next push, Dr. Corsi. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, and it's a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Very dark times, folks. Very dark times.
Coming to Infowars.com with an extremely important message. You're probably asking yourself right now, what's the most important phrase in America right now? Well, it happens to be Hillary from prison. Get your Hillary from prison t-shirt today at the Infowars store for $9.95. That's half of what it used to be in 1995. Why do you want to get this? Why should you buy this for you and your friends and family? Because number one, it's a great conversation starter. And number two, helps you trigger a whole lot of crazy liberal commie bastards. And that's what I like to do. Maybe you're just at work right now. It's Casual Shirt Friday. And one of your hipster buddies wants you with a Hillary Clinton shirt saying I'm with her. Negative. This is what you're going to do. You're going to stand up and go, Hillary for president! Benghazi!
What difference at this point does it make?
Go to InfoWarsStore.com and get your Hillary for Prison shirt today for $9.95 and trigger more assholes like this.
I'm Margaret Howell in downtown Austin reporting for Infowars.com. I'm here in the streets trying to get everyday opinions related to the FBI's decision not to charge Hillary Clinton with that crime related to those scandalous emails. Tell me what you think about Hillary Clinton.
As a human or a politician?
They decided yesterday that charges are not going to be brought against her, nothing to see here, no wrongdoing.
Wow, that's hypocritical.
I don't trust her as far as I could throw her.
How far could you throw her?
Not very far. When you look what Donald Trump's been doing nonstop, he's been hurting people on purpose. If she made a mistake, it wasn't on purpose.
You think Donald Trump's been hurting people on purpose?
Absolutely.
I like her a lot.
You do?
Oh, yeah. I'm with her.
Send it to my camera?
I'm with her.
I mean, honestly, the best part of you asking me these questions is I'm a communist.
Oh.
Yes. Do I like Hillary? Well, you know, Hillary's not a communist, so I don't see your correlation.
You think Hillary Clinton sucks? Why?
She's a communist.
I had another lady up here just a second ago who was a communist, and she said she didn't like Hillary because she was a communist.
Well, her opinion.
Is there anything that she could do to make you not vote for her?
Murder somebody on 5th Street?
Absolutely, completely new to me. I'm so sorry.
No opinion over Hillary Clinton whatsoever?
I prefer her to Trump. Can I go for that?
You said the system was rigged. Why?
Because if you have enough money, you can get away with about anything you want to.
You think she's too big to go to jail?
I do. I think she has enough bodies buried that they'll never be able to get her.
So it's good enough that she's a girl, basically.
Woman, yes it is.
She's too big to go to jail. She knows too many people that can get her out of something.
Are you a Trump supporter?
Yeah, I don't believe in some of the stuff he does, but I agree with him on some things. I'm Hispanic, and I don't think it's wrong for him to say illegals should be sent back.
Oh, Hillary Clinton absolutely, positively is a liar.
There you go. What do you think about Hillary Clinton's email scandal? Did you follow that?
Yes. I think she's a dirty scumbag.
Yeah, I don't really know much about it. All I know is it's bad.
Is she bad?
You know, she doesn't mean to be bad, but the decisions she does and the things she does probably isn't good.
You gotta tell me who you're voting for.
For Heath Ledger's rotting ballsack. And...
Yeah. Do you think that Heath Ledger's rotting ballsack would be better at the presidency than Hillary Clinton?
Heath Ledger's rotting ballsack would be better at the presidency than Hillary Clinton.
I want my phone call.
FEMA is talking about food prices going up 395% potentially. We got the Pentagon report predicting a meltdown coming around 2017. We've got Kissinger.
Precision, performance, perfection.
Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, has been outspoken about the Clinton email investigation, asking her to come clean about her private server, but also saying recently that lawmakers would probably accept the FBI director's recommendation. Where does it stand now? The congressman joins us here in the studio. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to have you here. Your reaction to Mr. Comey's decision not to move forward?
Confused by it. I did have the opportunity to speak with Director Comey just the last couple hours. I think if you look at the fact pattern, did she or did she not have classified information in a non-secure format that went on for years? The answer is clearly yes. And the statute says that's a violation of law.
So you spoke to him just within the past couple of hours. Tell me about the nature of this conversation. What did you ask him specifically?
Well, I want to understand the breadth of the case. Are there others that are going to be charged? What about this IT person that supposedly they offered some immunity to extract information? I want to learn the conflict that they see between what Director Comey said verbally and what the Inspector General came out with a couple weeks ago, because there are lots of points of conflict. Remember, Hillary Clinton wasn't quite so open and transparent with the Inspector General. She wouldn't even speak to that person. So we have a lot of outstanding questions, but no doubt I'm not going to be able to change his mind. But I think as the American people have a right to know the truth.
Did you answer any of those outstanding questions that you've been posed?
No, some of them was not referred to, but I still want to learn this information. Now that it's closed, there's really no excuse refuse not to provide that information to Congress.
Do you think, like so many other people in this town, that he is above reproach?
Well, he has the greatest of reputations, a man of great integrity. But if you look at just the basic fact pattern, why not hand that to the prosecutors and let them make the political decision? I wonder, if they look back at the former CIA Director Deutsch, this is a person who plugged a computer into the internet. The Department of Justice was going to prosecute them, and then it was President Clinton that offered that person a part. And so this has been prosecuted, or at least attempted to be prosecuted in the past. Why the difference now?
Well, he made some suggestions about intent, and that they looked at case law, or certainly previous examples, and he did not see the intent in this particular case.
That's ultimately why we have to question the FBI director, because that's not the case. The closest parallel that we see, at least at first blush, is Director Deutsch, because he did go through this. He was going to be prosecuted, and certainly that's, I think, the job of the FBI is to provide the fact pattern to the Department of Justice and not make the political calculation that this was, what a reasonable prosecutor would do. That's not the job of the FBI.
The House Oversight Committee, of which you are chairman, has jurisdiction over government records. Do you plan to call Director Comey?
Perhaps. I mean, that's why I had a conversation with him today. We're going to talk to a number of other members, the Speaker and others, but that's very much impossible.
I'd like to read a statement from Senator Grassley, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He said, quote, "If it wants to avoid giving the impression that the FBI was pulling punches, the agency must now be more transparent than ever in releasing information gathered during this investigation. There are plenty of FOIA and congressional requests pending that have been on hold because of the ongoing nature of the investigation. So now the FBI should respond fully and completely to all of them."
Senator Grassley is exactly right. There's no reason why the FBI should hold back in any way, shape, or form. FOIA requests from Congress, they have said this is a closed case to provide all the information.
This has been a huge fundraising for you, We're getting timely responses to FOIA.
We're just trying to get to the truth. The State Department is the biggest obstruction, so we have seen. I mean, they even literally went to a judge and said it would take 27 months to provide information to Judicial Watch. We're getting the same type of treatment in Congress, and the American people are seeing how Hillary Clinton's operates. So she does.
Your committee produced a report last January 2016, in which you found, quote, "The executive branch culture encourages an unlawful presumption of favor of secrecy when responding to Freedom of Information Act requests." It went on to find that the administration is unaware that FOIA is systemically broken, and agencies overuse and misapply exemptions, withholding information and records rightfully owed to FOIA requesters. What has become since you wrote that report?
Well, the Advisory Select Committee never did get all the documents, even though they're requested and subpoenaed. The Oversight Committee, same thing. We did pass a bipartisan piece of legislation the President signed in to redo FOIA. But if you have an unwilling partner, somebody who's playing hide the documents all the time, which Hillary Clinton has done time and time again, then you don't have a fully functional government. And that's the problem and challenge. I can issue a lot of subpoenas, a lot of requests, but if they're hiding those documents and they're unwilling to prosecute these, then what are you telling the rest of the government? Just hide the documents, no consequence. And that's probably the biggest long-term consequence that I fear.
Law professor at the University of Tennessee, Glenn Reynolds, who also writes the Innocent Pundit blog, is fond of saying and pulling out this quote whenever he sees a situation like this, quote, "Laws are for the little people." Do you agree with that?
I think that Clinton somehow, they just skate above it, as Speaker Ryan said, nobody should be above law. If you did this or I did this and you had classified information on a non-secure format, you'd be in jail, and you probably should be.
Where Republicans have been subject to the same treatment.
I think the Clintons somehow, they think they get away from it, get away with it, but you know what, it's ultimately up to the American people. They should go into this eyes wide open, and they have a choice, and they get to make it, they're the ultimate jury in this, but this is how the Clintons operate.
Is it possible that Director Comey came to the conclusion that the political realities in Washington's deeply divided city could not be separated from the legal case, and that to spend millions of taxpayer dollars on an investigation and on a trial, which would have transcended the political campaign and ended far after the campaign was over, simply would not be worthwhile?
I think it was more of a political determination at the end. He should have just laid out the facts, handed it over to the prosecutors to make that determination as to whether or not to prosecute it. I'm under no illusion that the Obama administration would probably not prosecute her. But the fact pattern is clear. Did she or did she not have classified information in a non-secure format? Yes. Did
Hello,
they have
Pegasus
hostile
Lifestyle
actors
Management.
who were
How
trying
can I
to
help you?
penetrate and look at those
Thank you, sir. Your spectacular aircraft is now ready for you at our nearest airfield.
We don't know, but that's the risk that you have when you purposely, this is no accident, purposely set up her own convenient email system with herself. I didn't create this, Republicans didn't create this. She created this.
Chairman Jacobs, I know you just got off a long plane ride. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Extremely careless, the FBI hitting at Secretary Hillary Clinton, saying she mishandled classified information on her private email server. But despite that, FBI Director James Comey saying the Bureau will not recommend criminal charges against the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. So why no charges? Here is Director Comey defending his decision.
I have not coordinated this statement or reviewed it in any way with the Department of Justice or any other part of the government. They do not know what I'm about to say. From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department,
I don't know what you're about to say, dog. They already on the plane going to the meeting with
52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. There is evidence to support a conclusion that any reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position, or in the position of those with whom she was corresponding about those matters, should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system. But their presence is especially concerning because all of these emails were housed on unclassified personal servers, not even supported by full-time security staff, like those found at agencies and departments of the United States government, or even with a commercial email service like Gmail. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account. Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
And of course, Donald Trump immediately took to Twitter to blast the FBI's recommendations and first this tweet. The system is rigged. General Petraeus got in trouble for far less. Very, very unfair. As usual, bad judgment. Now, 2 minutes later, he followed up with this tweet. FBI director said crooked Hillary compromised our national security. No charges. Wow. Hashtag rigged system. Former U.S. Attorney General Michael Mukasey is here to go on the record. Judge really was looking forward to getting your perspective today. A lot of people want to hear from someone with your esteemed career prosecuting cases like this. Were you surprised at the language and at the ultimate recommendation?
Well, I was surprised about halfway on when he listed all the reasons why he should be prosecuted. And then did a 180 and talked about why they were not going to prosecute. I was particularly impressed here that he said there was no intention to violate the law when the laws involved don't require an intent to violate the law. One has felony possession as standard gross negligence. And he said that he showed gross negligence when he said that he was extremely careless in handling information, some of which was at the top of classification. These are emails that the State Department had taken effort to disclose. He was extremely careless in handling those. That's enough to establish gross negligence. When he says that he's never done anything like this in the past, maybe what that is because to the FBI, but there are record cases of soldiers being prosecuted for far less for the statement they put in that information never leaked out. She gave the documents back. It never found its way into the biography, and there were no disclosed. So the folks have circumstances that are far less serious than those that result in fake.
And you went through quite a list in terms of a litany of offenses and saying that hostile actors could possibly have gained access, that she was reckless essentially using that email in her private server when she was overseas in areas where it could easily be penetrated and compromised in terms of our national security.
But that's one element, I suppose, of the gross negligence showing, but it's not necessary that hostile actors actually gain access. All that's necessary is that you act with gross negligence. We're talking about her travel in places where there was sophisticated break into the service.
And at this point, you don't expect that Russia, China, or any of these other countries that might have been able to gain access to hackers, people being able to penetrate her server, her email, to those that were also receiving them, so backhand on both ways, to come forward and say, oh yes, in fact, we got through. I mean, they'd rather get the information and compromise her if she becomes commander-in-chief.
That's right, and I don't expect that the United States, or we know they have it, or we can disclose that. Then we will be disclosing our own intelligence capabilities. So there's a certain amount of what's called gray mail going on here, where even if, for example, the CIA is aware that the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians or some other bad actors have this information, they wouldn't want it disclosed, because that would disclose that you're on the next.
And now she's running, obviously, for commander-in-chief, the one to be in charge and deal with these countries and some of these hostile actors. Should she become president of the United States? When I was speaking with Rudy Giuliani earlier today, he said, listen, she wouldn't even be able to pass basic background clearance given just the litany of the actions and activities and breaches that even Director Comey laid out.
Anybody who found what he said the FBI found would not get it through.
Now, how about the fact that they did this interview, the last step that they did was an interview with her in her home for 3.5 hours, okay? And then you see her, she went out that night, and then today she's with the president. The timing of all of this, and this comes on the heels, of course, of Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton.
Right. I found it sort of difficult to say, because I have a lot of faith in I have a little bit less faith today than I had yesterday, but I'm very surprised that
Not going to happen. And then there's statute of limitations, so this could still percolate other evidence come forward on this in terms of between now or after the election. It won't have expired by the time she becomes president.
Correct.
Very interesting. All right, Seth, thank you so much for coming on the record today.
Short segment tonight, reaction to the FBI's decision not to recommend charges against Hillary Clinton by her rival, Donald Trump. We don't usually do phone interviews here on The Factor, with politicians especially, but with the breaking news of Mr. Trump campaigning this evening, we will make an exception. The candidate joins us now on the phone. First of all, do you think the FBI did an honest investigation?
Well, I don't want to talk about honesty, but it was certainly surprising, especially in the middle of the talk when he talked about all of the mistakes that she made. She made great mistakes, and it sounded to me like there was no choice but to convince or to go to, some form of very harsh punishment. And they didn't do that. And I can tell you, everybody was stunned at the end because, if you listen to it, it sounds like she had horrible judgment. She didn't know what she was doing. She was sloppy. She was just about as bad as you can be. Okay. And then in the end, the recommendation was what the recommendation was. So I was surprised by that after listening to the first half of it. It's especially the best.
Do you believe there's politics involved here? Do you believe that the FBI and the Justice Department got together in some way, shape, or form and said, you know what? We're not going to disrupt the electoral process. She's running for president. We're going to cut her more slack than we would someone else. Do you believe that?
Well, my problem is that I know people in the FBI. I have such respect for the FBI that I just don't understand what happened here, because everybody knows, everybody realizes. I've spoken to many, many lawyers, as you have, and you had them on your show, and you've read about it, and everybody knows she's extremely guilty. And they really said she was guilty today, and then they said we're not going to prosecute. And then you remember what happened to General Petraeus and other people, and they suffered tremendous consequences.
Yeah, but it was different. As we said, Petraeus had intent. He knew what he was doing. He gave it to his girlfriend. And Comey said that there was no intent by Secretary Clinton to subvert the process. She did it.
I think she had intent, though. I mean, to me...
Oh, well, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. You say that Hillary Clinton wanted to subvert the national security process of this country. Is that what you're saying?
Well, she knew what she was doing, Bill. She knew what she was doing. But she could say, well, I didn't know the repercussions of what I was doing. She could say that. But she's a lawyer. She knew what was going on. And frankly, even if she didn't, what she did was wrong. And, you know, whether you had intent or not is not the defining characteristic of this. You can make a mistake and you're still guilty, you know, because you're talking about national security. And there are a lot of reasons for guilt. So it's surprising. To me, I think it's really surprising. And I'm not just talking about from today, from Director Comey. I'm talking about, generally speaking, people would say there's no way she can avoid this because of what's happened to other people.
But you believe that she did it on purpose, don't you?
Well, I certainly believe something strange happened, because when you put your servers in basements and when you, look at all of the information that was just wiped clean, whether by lawyer or anybody else, and I just look at it, and we know that she had, classified information on her server, and she says she didn't have classified information on her server. So when you look at all of the facts, she certainly lied. At a minimum, she lied. And you're not supposed to be lying when you're dealing at this level. And then you have the husband going around at the tarmac, and I've been on a lot of tarmacs, so nobody ever runs into your plane. And he talked for 39 minutes about his grandchildren and about golf. It's not the way life is. It's just not the way life happens.
So basically what you're saying, though, is that the Clintons, committed a crime, because if the president was trying to influence the justice system, that would be obstruction.
Hello, you're through to Pegasus Lifestyle Management. How can I help? Great. The aircraft is waiting for you at our nearest airfield. We trust you will be happy, sir.
Trying to obstruct justice. That's what you're saying tonight.
Well, she knew that was going to happen because of what she was doing. It just wasn't secure. So she knew that was going to happen. And as far as her husband is concerned, I mean, who just happens to be, waiting on a tarmac and all of a sudden run in and talk about grandkids and golf for supposedly 39 minutes? I mean, it doesn't happen that way. Life doesn't happen that way.
If you're elected president, are you going to fire Attorney General Lynch and Director Comey?
I don't want to comment on that. I really don't want to comment on that because it's inappropriate at this moment. But I will tell you that I believe that what happened over the last 4 or 5 days has been a total miscarriage in justice. And I really believe that what happened is shocking, and it's certainly shocking to legal scholars, and I watch them and talk to them all the time. They can't believe what happened. And whether it's General Petraeus or others that have suffered grave consequences for what they do, Bill, I think it's a great miscarriage of justice.
Do you believe the fix was in, and President Obama had anything to do with it?
Well, it was really strange, the timing, because I see him, talking making a speech a couple of hours after this happened. Certainly it was very strange to be having your meeting with the FBI on the, one of the biggest holidays of the year. I mean, certainly 4th of July weekend, and they're having meetings on Saturday, and then the speech, and everybody knew she was going to be in North Carolina on Monday, and then, the semi-exoneration. I don't even know if you call it an exoneration, because there were so many bad things said about what she did.
She wasn't exonerated. She just wasn't prosecuted. But she's
essentially incompetent. I think what he's saying, she's incompetent. Okay, she's not dishonest. She's certainly incompetent.
He clearly said that, Comey did. But I'm going to pose the question again. Do you believe the fix was in, and that President Obama was involved in that?
I think it's extremely unusual that he is speaking 2 hours after the so-called exoneration, that he's speaking in North Carolina, where I'm heading right now, by the way. I'm going to Raleigh, where we have a big crowd. But I think it's a very unusual set of circumstances. And it began with President Clinton going into an airplane, you know, just like, oh, gee, hey, this is wonderful. And a lot of people are saying, where was he before? Was he playing golf, or did he just go there, see her, and then leave? Because some people are saying that's what happened. Nobody knows where he was. Did he fly in and fly right out? Because that's a whole different circumstance. Because he said he was just in North Carolina. A lot of people thought he was playing golf, but they haven't been able to find out where he played golf. So, regardless, you have a set of circumstances which is absolutely a horrendous set of circumstances as far as I'm concerned, and as far as a lot of great lawyers are concerned.
Are you going to accuse President Obama of influencing the case, and are you going to accuse Hillary Clinton of committing a crime?
I'm going to further look into it, and we will see what we shall see. And you will be certainly one of the first to know. That I can tell you. But I'm going to look into it very, very strongly, and we will see what we will see.
All right. We appreciate you coming out tonight. I know it's a very busy day for you. Thank you. Not find direct evidence that Secretary Clinton's personal email domain, in its various configurations in 2009, was hacked successfully. Given the nature of the system and of the actors potentially involved, we assess it would be unlikely to see such direct evidence. We do assess that hostile actors gained access to the private commercial email accounts of people with whom Secretary Clinton was in regular contact from her personal account. We also assess that Secretary Clinton's use of a personal email domain was both known by a large number of people and readily apparent. She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
FBI Director James Comey earlier today talking about the possibility of, yes, hackers gaining access to Hillary Clinton's private email server while she was Secretary of State. Did she put your national security at risk? Joining us now, the author of The Damned of Petersburg, Fox News strategic analyst Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, as well as the author of Defeating Jihad, the winnable war, the distinguished chair of military theory at Marine Corps University, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Listen to what he's saying. Well, we wouldn't be able to see the evidence because they're so clean, they would get in and out without us knowing. It was a well-known domain, and by the way, she did use it on hostile territory, so it's probably likely to say they got it. Right, that's how I interpret it. Right,
which means that she blackmailed us. We know more than 100 emails contain classified information, some of them TSSCI, the highest level SAP Special Access Program, which means that she can be blackmailed by anybody. Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. She was sending classified emails from outside U.S. territory on multiple servers using multiple devices. That means she could be, the second she gets into office, they give her the football with a nuclear code. North Korea, Iran start blackmailing her. She should recuse herself from any part of official instantly. Colonel Peters, do you agree with that assessment?
Well, yes, I certainly do.
Boy, that's all broken. Now, I just remember my interactions with the old KGB in Moscow and here in Washington at meetings. And the Russians must have been stunned. They probably thought it was all an elaborate CIA hoax that no American Secretary of State would do this, would be this stupid. And unquestionably, this is compromised. As a former intelligence professional, over 20 years, I can guarantee you, the Russians, the Chinese, the French, and probably any number of private actors in other states were definitely reading those emails. And she knew all along. This wasn't a couple of mistakes.
Well, I should add to that, because she actually said, I'll throw this to you, that there were numerous safeguards. The Secret Service surrounded it. There was no safeguards at all.
That was another lie on top of every other lie she told about
The whole narrative from day one of her campaign has been blown out of the water. I never sent material that was marked classified or unclassified.
Send a receipt.
He specifically addressed that. He said it doesn't matter if it's marked
He
or unmarked.
obliterated every lie she told, which made me think he was going in a different direction. Why would he obliterate the lies and then say, no?
Look, from the point of view of Machiavellian political nous, what Director Comey did today was perfection. Because I was there watching it live in the Fox studio. We were all watching it. And for a 15-minute presser, he does 13 minutes. And everybody's going, he's going to do it, he's going to do it, he's going to recommend prosecution. Last 90 seconds, he does a 180. No, sorry, no, not going to do it. He covered all bases. He made himself look diligent. We've done all the research. We've done all the investigation. But he saved himself. He saved his job by saying, not prosecute.
Colonel Peters? No. Hillary, don't underestimate her. She made a bet that she was too big to jail. And she was right. And you know, Sean, you and I have gone back and forth. I have regarded both candidates as a choice between Satan and Lucifer. Today was the first day I thought, you know, I might have to vote for Donald Trump just to get the Obama-Clinton mafia out of this country, out of Washington, certainly, because what they have done and what Director Comey did, disgracefully, was to shred the law. He showed that there are two sets of laws, one for the rest of us and one for the elite of the elite, like Hillary Clinton. And as part of the pattern of the Obama administration, they've been dismantling the Constitution, selective prosecutions, rigged investigations. I mean, the Constitution, the law, is the foundation of all that's good in this country. And they're destroying it. It's like Venezuela or Paraguay or Bolivia. Well, powerful statements by both of you. Thanks so much, Dr. Gorka. Thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Peters, thank you.
Well, y'all hear how Hillary did, but Hillary did that, man.
Joining us, Washington Times columnist, Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt, and senior advisor and pollster to the Trump campaign, Kellyanne Conway. Good to have you both with us. Kellyanne, let me start with you. A rigged system, an FBI director who some people, one of the leading conservatives in the country, David Bossie, had assured me in his judgment that he would be produced. A result full of integrity, brimming with thoroughness, and what we got was just an expansion of what is a politicized and corrupt Justice Department under this administration.
Yes, it is. And it was just a spectacularly missed opportunity for Director Comey. What did he do? He exonerated her for criminal charges, and then he went on to completely rebuke her version of what had happened. Let's make very clear for the viewers tonight that Hillary Clinton withheld more emails than she did. Think about that. 50% withheld, 44% released. He made very clear that Hillary Clinton had multiple devices for her own convenience, and yet for national security at risk.
Style it that way. We'll address it that way in this broadcast.
He said careless. He said very careless, and of course the statute says gross negligence, which is a lot of standard.
And I want you to know, I looked that up under the statutes. Charlie, I don't know about you. Extremely careless isn't in the code. It doesn't.
Sounds like gross negligence, though, right? Which is in the code.
What do you make of it? Especially if you were the leader of the department through which so many of these secrets passes. You have the bar is even higher, and I think Kellyanne is exactly right. He went through the entire first part of those remarks, confirming that he had a slam dunk case to prosecute her on, and actually went even beyond just the basics of what she'd been accused of. She violated so many laws, and he laid it all out there, and then went on to say that it was that they had no way that their assumption is that foreign enemy operators had probably infiltrated some of her emails, possibly some of these secret ones, and then turned it around. If I can interject there, Charlie, and I apologize for interrupting you, but basically he was acknowledging that either A, they didn't know whether or not in fact she had been hacked, and B, that they didn't have the resources, technology, and
and knowledge with which to make the determination. Either way, it was revelatory to our enemies as much as it was disappointing to Americans who believe in a square deal and a fair, impartial justice system. And entirely setting up a terrible example for all of the thousands of people who work in the State Department who go through all of the mind-numbing rules and errands in order to handle. Yeah, I'm not going to believe for the State Department. I got to be really honest with you. I have watched the State Department function under not only the current Secretary of State, but for years under various administrations. So let me say to you very clearly, unequivocally, our State Department has become a separate government within a government, and it really needs to be reined in, and it has to happen soon because the very national security is at stake. Oh, I want to turn, if we may, who's going to be the vice president for Donald Trump? This is a burning question. Is it going to be Ernst? Is it going to be Gingrich? Who's it going to be, Kellyanne?
Well, it's going
to get Charlie.
It seems like his short list is growing, and he's being very public about the process, which is unusual. Yeah. He's letting people see that this party is unified to the extent that he has some really serious leaders considering being his vice president. He has governors, he has members of Congress, senators, he has business leaders, he has someone in the military. And here's what's most important about the process. He has a number of different choices. Usually you delegate your vice president the attack dog position, but Donald Trump's so good at it, he relishes it. So maybe, why delegate or abdicate that when you're the best there is? That's right. So maybe something a little less than that vein. But look, Governor Pence took into the Rust Belt states. 10 years in the Foreign Affairs Committee, 12 years in Congress, great governor's record. Newt Gingrich, we all know and love here at Fox. I was his host in 2012 in full disclosure. He gives him somebody who's just a legislative historian / innovative, forward-thinking. He's brilliant, we all know. But there are so many people on the list now that I think it's
Well, let me start by saying that I think that normally, in most cases, the vice presidential pick has very little meaning and it doesn't really matter. Whoever Hillary Clinton picks, I think, is completely irrelevant. This is one of the rare cases where who Donald Trump picks actually matters. And to tell you, it's like everything he does now matters.
Well, judgment. She exercised poor judgment today, Jim Comey said. This would be a great exercise of judgment.
Indeed. But if Donald Trump goes and picks somebody like Newt Gingrich, there are so many people in Washington, inside the Beltway types, who are in the Never Trump camp, who absolutely love Newt Gingrich. He's got a big brain, he understands the government. A lot of people right now are scratching their heads saying, now how does that work again?
Well, Charlie's right, though. It was marginalized, the remnants of Never Trump, who look a little petty if you put somebody on the ticket who's really going to help.
I'm going to say something radical. I think they would have a hard time opposing. I'm sorry, go ahead, Charlie. And not only that, they would have a hard time opposing a ticket that included somebody like Newt Gingrich. And so it could win over a lot of those people, which I think is vital for Donald Trump.
Early evidence for us to assess at another time, Charlie, Kellyanne. Paul Ryan falling in line with Donald Trump, saying he's very concerned about the FBI director and his decision today. That's encouraging, isn't it? Charlie, thanks so much for being with us. Charlie, you bet. Kellyanne comment. Thank you, Paul.
I'm Mr. Booze, and you're on my channel. The truth is the truth. Period. Fuck all the bullshit.
A historic moment in the 2016 presidential race. A year-long FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server scandal is over, ending with a devastating account of how the former Secretary of State has systematically misled the American people for 16 months about almost every facet of this scandal. Good evening and welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. More than 16 months ago, Americans learned that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was conducting the business of the U.S. government from a private email account managed on her own private email server kept at her home in New York, outside the purview of the federal government or its controls for classified communications. Immediately sparking concerns that the nation's top diplomat may have compromised America's top secrets. Mrs. Clinton downplayed it all, and her top aides dismissed the people's criticism of her actions as, quote, absurd. The FBI launched an investigation, And hours ago, FBI Director James Comey announced his agency's findings. The FBI Director finding the evidence does not support criminal charges against Mrs. Clinton, but absolutely supports the finding that she misled the American people over and over and over again while under federal investigation. For example, Mrs. Clinton argued right from the get-go that she never sent or received any classified information on her personal email. Watch. I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. I never sent or received any classified material. They are retroactively classifying it.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails, 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
They were classified at the time they were sent or received. This is not a matter of retroactive classification. That was another misleading statement from the Clinton camp. Next, Mrs. Clinton's repeated claim that she turned over all official emails to investigators and that the American people could trust her, that they were not lurking on her private server or inappropriately withheld from the State Department once she got caught with the private server. That she was hiding nothing? Well, listen to that. I have absolute confidence that everything that could be in any way connected to work is now in the possession of the State Department.
The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to State in 2014.
In any way it was turned over, except the FBI Director says no. Some of these work-related emails she failed to turn over were actually also classified, according to Director Comey. Next, Mrs. Clinton said that she only used a personal email because she didn't want to carry more than one email device. Thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two.
Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain.
Next, Mrs. Clinton claimed her unprecedented email setup was permitted by the rules. It was allowed, and the rules have been clarified since I left about the practice.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system. They were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
The FBI Director went on to say that no reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position could have believed that they were acting appropriately. Next, Mrs. Clinton has repeatedly assured the country that America's secrets were safe, despite their presence on her home server. It had numerous safeguards. It was on property guarded by the Secret Service, and there were no security breaches.
We assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
Director Comey found the world's most notorious hackers knew about Mrs. Clinton's email and said it is conceivable they have everything, although the FBI is not able to prove that, he said. However, after all that, Director Comey said he had to conclude that the former Secretary of State likely committed no crime here.
Wow. Every time I think about
Looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
The director explaining that in similar cases, there has been evidence that the target intended to disclose classified material, that there was obvious disloyalty to the United States or obstruction of justice, none of which he found present in this case. Fox 6 Senior Political Analyst Britt Hume. Britt, great to see you. Your thoughts, please.
Well, you did a very good job there of setting forth just how Comey's statement that blew up this tissue of lies that has been told by Secretary Clinton throughout this case, ending, of course, with his conclusion that while, as he put it at one point, there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, then he goes on to say our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. So he didn't really find necessarily beyond what one might have expected an FBI director to recommend to the department, perhaps, or to say publicly, which makes this whole procedure today more than a little unusual, Megan, because if you think about it, if he didn't think he was worth prosecuting, all he had to do, when you think about it, is simply turn over his findings to the Department of Justice and leave it to the Department of Justice to make what he described as a prosecutive decision. He declined to do that. In fact, I think what he probably thought, Megan, was that if he did that, there wasn't any chance that the department would bring charges. And if you start thinking about the Obama Justice Department, with Loretta Lynch at its head, formerly headed by Eric Holder, the most credible person in the whole place that anybody's ever heard of is James Comey of the FBI. And it's not too much to suggest here, it seems to me, Megan, that he has placed his credibility at the service of what he knew would be the ultimate outcome of this case once it was referred to the Justice Department. And in that sense, he did this administration, this Attorney General, and perhaps it's unfair to say Hillary Clinton a very great service, although, as I say, he did blow up her whole network of lies that she told them at the time.
Well, I mean, he seemed to be saying, we're going to get into the law after you, in our next episode, but he seemed to be saying to me, this is how I interpreted it, that no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case like this because the history doesn't support cases like this. When these cases are brought, it's for intentional actions that undermine the security of the United States. And if you look at the ones that have been brought, it's where somebody intentionally stole documents from their government agency, downloaded them on their personal device, kept them at home, lied to the FBI when they got caught, tried to throw the device into a river, that kind of thing. And he is right that there isn't a case that looks much like this one. However, the presentation of the lies, Britt, I mean, he didn't have to do that.
No, he didn't, and I think in that sense he did. Basically what he said is she did everything short of a crime, and then lied about it all the way.
While she was being investigated, I don't know if she lied to him, but she repeatedly told the American people a bunch of nonsense.
Well, that's true. I mean, in this sense, that was complete. One thing that he didn't quite get to was you notice along the way, Megan. Secretary Clinton changed her claim from there was no classified information to there was no information marked classified, and that was a complete deception from the jump, because information is not classified because it's marked because it's classified.
He took that
Well, he basically blew that up too, if you think about it.
But Brett, what do you think? You've been saying that all along, and he agrees with you, and not with Mrs. Clinton, who also knows better. But my question for you, Brett, is whether this makes any difference. Her dishonesty numbers are already through the roof. The Democrats, so far have not shown a huge inclination toward Trump. So how does this play in the political race?
Well, there's still a significant body of undecided voters out there, enough to make the election go one way or the other. And this takes out of Hillary Clinton's arsenal any effective weapon claiming that Donald Trump is irresponsible and possibly reckless. She has now been found by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to have engaged in extreme carelessness in the handling of the nation's most sensitive information. That is really damning. It would, under ordinary circumstances, it would rule out a candidate for president. But this is a peculiar year, under peculiar circumstances. She's up against a candidate who's got about 40% support. He seems to have had trouble breaking out of that, and is distrusted by many voters. But make no mistake about it, she carries this burden into the fall, and it will be with her all the way. And it is all kinds of fuel for the Trump campaign if it uses it effectively.
Mm-hmm. All they need is Director Comey. I mean, that's all they need is him. Just he should be in every ad Trump runs, because Trump doesn't have to say a word. He just has to point to the director of the FBI. Brett, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Megan.
Oh shit, man.
Interrupted with the pictures of the grandchildren, KT. I mean, Donald Trump is making a very good point. 39 minutes of talking about the grandchildren, not entirely plausible.
No, and it's not only that one meeting that the secretary had, that President Clinton had
with the Secretary, about Secretary Clinton. So the President had a meeting with the Attorney General. That's day one. Day two, the story comes out that Secretary Clinton, if she's elected President, is going to take the Attorney General in that office. And then day three, Comey comes up with this explanation that he lays out the indictment, but by the way, we're not going to prosecute. It looks like the fix is in on all three occasions.
Is there any way that a reasonable person could use Comey's own standard instead of a reasonable prosecutor? Any reasonable person chosen at random on the street would listen to this nonsense and look at the timeline and construct anything other than a plausible.
The whole world could be outraged about this bullshit.
What do you think, John?
No, I don't think Comey is corrupt. I think he's cowardly. I think as we look at...
I think that's a fact. By the way, I think that is a form of corruption. To have a person who is innervated and acquiesces out of cowardice is the same as buying the actions of someone with money or reward. I find that is just as repulsive as any.
Sure. Well, let's look at the reason. He was rebuffed on the Petraeus investigation. Some say humiliated by Eric Holder because he thought he had a case against Petraeus, and Holder made him bargain it down to a misdemeanor. And I think like a horse shying at the highest hurdle, Comey just didn't have it in him to risk being rebuffed again. I think the mistake was the FBI should have presented this, John. I'm not justifying it, Lou. I'm just telling you what I think went through Comey's mind, because I don't think you can make out a case that he's corrupt. I'm not saying that people wouldn't have tried. I don't put past the Clintons 1 minute. But I don't think that's the mistake Comey made. I think he made a decision based on fear, and I think we should hear now from other FBI agents. If they think that he punted on this one, I think we can expect to hear it.
You really do. I mean, KTVU, I mean, now, we haven't heard from an FBI agent. There is in this administration an oath of silence.
America, it's called. Exactly. Let me tell you though, Lou, I'm an alumnus of the Justice Department. I've worked with these FBI guys. I worked with them when I served at the State Department on a number of counterintelligence matters. I still see FBI agents regularly in the course of their work. These guys are tough. And there's two things you need to know about them. They hate criminals and they love the United States. And if they thought that they were being intimidated or somebody was trying to intimidate them for political reasons, they'd blow the lid on it. I think this case has had so few leads because I think they believe that we're serious. I believe many of these guys in the FBI today think that they've been betrayed by their directors.
Well, that's an interesting conclusion, Casey. I thought John was taking it somewhere else, but now it turns out an agreement on the interest of the director. Betrayed the government. Betrayed. I don't know where to turn. I'd like Casey on that.
You know, when you take an oath of office in the United States, you raise your right hand and you say you're going to defend the Constitution of the United States. Do we think the Attorney General has defended the Constitution? Do we think the Director of the FBI has defended the Constitution? I don't think either one of them has. And they have betrayed their oath of office, and I think they have betrayed it.
And John, I don't think, I know more than a few folks served in the FBI. All do. And that's not the issue. Let's not turn this to an indictment of the men and women who make up the FBI. We're talking about the leadership of the institution. And I don't know how many of them, frankly, in the FBI would be aware of the agents themselves of the whole piece, which would lead to the results that obviously we've all come to. And that is, this man is on its face tortured reason. He's tortured the facts to come up with a contrived assessment of extreme perilousness. Are you kidding me? Who is this?
It's gross negligence, there's no doubt about it. But that's why I say this is not over yet. If Hillary Clinton, since she left the State Department, is still receiving classified briefings, that should stop. Her security clearance, if it still exists, should be pulled. And she should not receive any classified briefings until she gets sworn in as president if the American people decide that, number one. Number two, every one of her aides should be judged by the State Department on whether their security clearances should be pulled. And like all the other low-level people who get caught up in security violations, they should never get federal employment again in any position that requires access to classified information. And Republicans in Congress should insist on that right now.
You know what, the Republicans in Congress haven't insisted on anything, John, since they took control of both the House and the Senate. And today Paul Ryan finally fell in line with Donald Trump and criticized the FBI director on these very charges. And see how much sense the leadership of both the House and the Senate demonstrated on the ensuing days. Because, well, but the fact is, there's no accountability. There's no response. There's no reaction. And the American people have got to be gut sick.
Gut sick, yeah, bro. We gut sick, bro.
Thanks so much for
this is
being
bullshit.
with me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
A historic moment in the 2016 presidential race. A year-long FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server scandal is over, ending with a devastating account of how the former Secretary of State has systematically misled
Nobody
the
won't fight
American
and
people
shoot against each other. That's y'all kids want to kill each other. Fuck. That's all the game is about, killing each other. I don't play that shit. Y'all can play that shit by yourself.
More than 16 months ago, Americans learned that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was conducting the business of the U.S. government from a private email account managed on her own private email server kept at her home in New York, outside the purview of the federal government or its controls for classified communications, immediately sparking concerns that the nation's top diplomat may have compromised America's top secrets. Mrs. Clinton downplayed it all, and her top aides dismissed the people's criticism of her actions as, quote, absurd. The FBI launched an investigation, and hours ago, FBI Director James Comey announced his agency's findings. The FBI Director finding the evidence does not support criminal charges against Mrs. Clinton.
And they got people go to jail all day, every day behind some bullshit like this.
She misled the American people over and over and over again while under federal investigation. For example, Mrs. Clinton argued right from the get-go that she never sent or received any classified information on her personal email. Watch.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material.
I never sent or received any classified material. They are retroactively classifying it.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received.
They were classified at the time they were sent or received. This is not a matter of retroactive classification. That was another misleading statement from the Clinton camp. Next, Mrs. Clinton's repeated claim that she turned over all official emails to investigators and that the American people could trust her, that there were none lurking on her private server or inappropriately withheld from the State Department once she got caught with the private server, that she was hiding nothing. Well, listen to that.
I have absolute confidence that everything that could be in any way connected to work is now in the possession of the State Department.
The FBI also discovered several thousand work-related emails among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton to state in 2014.
In any way, it was turned over, except the FBI director says no. Some of these work-related emails she failed to turn over were actually also classified, according to Director Comey. Next, Mrs. Clinton said that she only used her personal email because she didn't want to carry more than one email device.
thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two.
Secretary Clinton used several different servers and administrators of those servers during her 4 years at the State Department. And she also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email on that personal domain.
Next, Mrs. Clinton claimed her unprecedented email setup was permitted by the rules.
It was allowed, and the rules have been clarified since I left about the practice.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system. They were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
The FBI director went on to say that no reasonable person in Secretary Clinton's position could have believed that they were acting appropriately. Next, Mrs. Clinton has repeatedly assured the country that America's secrets were safe, despite their presence on her home server.
It had numerous safeguards. It was on property guarded by the Secret Service, and there were no security breaches.
We assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
Director Comey found the world's most notorious hackers knew about Mrs. Clinton's email and said it is conceivable they have everything, although the FBI is not able to prove that, he said. However, after all that, Director Comey said he had to conclude that the former Secretary of State likely committed no crime here.
In looking back at our investigations into the mishandling or removal of classified information, we cannot find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts.
The director explaining that in similar cases, there has been evidence that the target intended to disclose classified material, that there was obvious disloyalty to the United States or obstruction of justice, none of which he found present in this case. Fox News senior political analyst Britt Hume. Britt, great to see you. Your thoughts.
Man, it's the same shit, man.
Well,
I'll get up there and give him some time to show me your yours. See what you talking about.
I want to tell you guys about an interview I'm going to.
Rockers with a little more karaoke. So my boy called me up and sent me some good music.
Fox News national security analyst and former deputy assistant secretary of defense in the Reagan administration. You're watching Comey's conversation or his comments with us live. Your take on it? Were you surprised? No charges.
I was surprised. I mean, I was surprised a couple of things. One, I worked in the West Wing during the Nixon administration when my boss, Richard Nixon, was forced to resign for a whole lot less than this. But the other thing that struck me is that Director Comey did two favors. One, the Secretary Clinton, but a huge favor to the Attorney General, because her decision-making process was now compromised because of her meeting on the plane with Bill Clinton, and secondly, because Hillary Clinton has let it be leaked and known that, well, if Loretta Lynch, if she's president, part of my administration, I'll keep her on. So that compromised the Attorney General, and by Comey coming out the way she did, saying, I haven't let anybody know I'm making this press conference, I'm doing it on my own volition, and I'm recommending not indicting. But other things on the investigation that nobody's talked about, there were two investigations going on. This is just the first one. This is about investigation involving the Clinton Foundation as well as corruption charges. Yeah, and I think most Americans, classified, not classified, mishandling the information, they don't get that. I mean, that's a Washington. That's people like you and me are really excited about that stuff, right? Anybody outside the Beltway isn't. What everybody understands is corruption. And that's the second investigation. That's a criminal investigation into the Clinton Foundation. Did companies and countries donate to the Clinton Foundation in order to get favorable treatment from Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State? That's the one that's still ongoing. But also,
as we were listening to him, he seemed to contradict himself because he went through the things that were wrong, the things that they should have known, and then yet still says no charges. And he also pointed out that anyone else would face some sort of reprimand at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, it goes through the indictment of all the reasons that she did stuff wrong, and then says that we're not going to prosecute. Yeah. I mean, it does sound just...
Because they could find no similar cases where charges were brought.
Well, it's like she did this wrong, she did this wrong, she did this wrong, but I don't think she meant to do those things wrong. So we're not going to prosecute. We're not going to recommend prosecution. I think you're held accountable for your deeds, whether you meant to do ill or not.
And if you compare that to other situations, Petraeus specifically,
well, Petraeus still left and had a much more serious, accusation against. I mean, not a serious accusation, but a bigger penalty. He certainly didn't get a lot bigger.
Yeah. All right. Casey McFarland joining us. Thank you.
Brett, just your thoughts, having heard the FBI director.
Yeah, John, I think a couple of takeaways. One is it was very detailed. Two is when he jumped out and said at the beginning that no one knows what I'm going to say. I think that was powerful to start the news conference. What he did, and he was just talking about it there, was lay out the recklessness of email and the fact that there were 7 chains of email that dealt with top secret SAP classified material, the highest level. Then went on to say and explain how that is a criminal act, that reckless behavior. And I think that what we're missing here is that while he's saying that no one in the future, that people may be charged down the road with handling material like this, that he is recommending, the FBI is recommending to the prosecutor that it would be a tough prosecution, but it is the DOJ's decision. I think this is still a political hot potato for not only the Clinton campaign, but also the DOJ. I think in the end, they will pass and say it's the recommendation of the FBI not to prosecute. But it still shows this recklessness, and it also shows that no matter how it was marked, it still was really a reckless decision to handle the classified material like that.
It is certainly not something that she's going to be putting on her campaign brochure as part of her, qualifications. I'm sure the Clinton campaign will try to distract people from it and say, look, the FBI found nothing, and there's Hillary Clinton right now appearing live at a campaign appearance. We don't expect her to address this announcement from the FBI director, but she is out on the campaign trail right now. I'm curious, Brett, when the FBI director started to talk about past cases where they have looked at mishandling of classified information. One of those involves General David Petraeus, war hero, head of the CIA, gave his personal diaries that had some classified information on them, apparently, to his biographer, and he was originally charged with a felony. Eventually, that was brought down, he pled down to a misdemeanor, is my recollection. But is there no parallel here?
I think it really came down to what General Petraeus told the FBI along the way, talking about that specific investigation. And I think that's where the difference was. You know, it's interesting, and just the political timing of this, you know, it comes obviously after the Bill Clinton-Loretta Lynch meeting. We've talked a lot about that. Then you have, it's coming on the same day President Obama is campaigning for Hillary Clinton in North Carolina. So the image is just not that great to begin with. But it's also that if you look into exactly what Jim Comey said, it is not flattering, and it really goes up against what Hillary Clinton has been saying about this from the beginning. That said, the bottom line is that she likely is not going to face any charges because the prosecutors at the DOJ are going to go along with the FBI. We heard that from Loretta Lynch in defending that Clinton meeting on the tarmac.
Yeah. There is a whole raft of material here for Donald Trump to work with as he continues to take on Hillary Clinton. You know, the question is, I guess, ultimately going to be decided by the voters. The FBI director seems pretty clear in saying that she mishandled the information and, you know, as he mentioned, some of the work email that she was supposed to have turned over may be gone forever.
Here's the thing, John, really quickly, is that, you know, politically, she's been going after Donald Trump for being unable to handle the seriousness of the job when it comes to national security, and that he is somehow reckless in his handling of big crises or national security. Well, Donald Trump likely will take this, turn around and say, Jim Comey just said that you were reckless. Now, you're not getting charged, and you're not going to go to jail. But this is what the FBI director said. So expect either Donald Trump or some super PAC to use those words from that press conference in a political sense.
Brett Baer, much to talk about tonight on Special Report. We will see you then. Brett, thanks very much.
Thanks.
I want to now bring in Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr. He is in our New York newsroom with more reaction to this one. I mean, at the top, when he laid out the case of everything that she had done and her team had done, there were more details, there was more damning evidence in there than what had even been reported.
That's absolutely correct, and Hillary Clinton really should be down on her knees at this very moment thanking her creator for avoiding an indictment. She came within a hair of an indictment based upon what Mr. Comey said this morning at this press conference. He talked about potential violations of statutes. He talked about extreme carelessness. He talked about dozens, if not 100 or more, top secret, and confidential classified emails that were found. He talked about thousands of emails that were not turned over by Secretary Clinton, that were destroyed by her lawyers without even looking at them. So, in the end, the FBI director said, well, as a matter of judgment, as a matter of discretion, based on the fact that there was no real sense of espionage or disloyalty, that charges would not be brought. But what the FBI director did, based on this extreme carelessness statement and based upon this cavalcade of missteps, whether intentional or not, depicted a secretary running a culture totally unlike any department in the United States of America, with a total disregard of keeping secrets. And secrets in the Secretary of State's office mean lies very, very often. So this was an extraordinary day of the FBI director parsing his words very carefully, but at the same time depicting, in my mind, what defines gross negligence under the law and could have put Hillary Clinton with an FBI charge and information and then an indictment by a grand jury. Incredible, incredible.
Peter, it's Ebony. I have a question for you as well. Now, according to the FBI director, it looks like criminally they will not be moving forward with her. But, you know, the FBI director also spoke about potential civil sanctions or the security sanctions that she could be facing. Do you have any idea, Peter, as to what that could possibly look like? Because certainly, you know, we haven't even been to convention yet, so she's a long way from the White House, and how that might impact.
Well, that could impact, but, you know, the Inspector General had already determined that there was a violation of the Code of Federal Relations with regard to certain statutes here. The greater impact is in having a candidate who has been marked with this scarlet letter, as it were, as an extremely careless Secretary of State who had a conscious disregard for keeping state secrets. And that's a determination and a castigation and a condemnation by the head of the FBI. Clearly, below the surface, and this is just my view of watching him here, he was clearly disgusted by the conduct that was undertaken by the Secretary and by the people around the Secretary. What he's basically saying is, I found potential violation of statutes unprecedented based on past experience, based on the fact that we have never seen anything like this in our lives before. I do not believe that you should go forward, U.S. Attorney's Office in Virginia, with a prosecution. So on one hand saying, we have the evidence, but on the other hand saying, I don't think you can win the case. This is not a clean bill of health. In fact, this is a very sick patient in terms of the statecraft. Very sick.
Peter, it's Tony Say. The director actually said there was no precedent for him to charge or bring forward criminal charges. He just used the term precedent. Did the FBI director just create precedent for others in government to operate completely without transparency?
Well, that's a great question. Now, what he said was, well, that doesn't mean that someone in the future who committed essentially the same acts would not be subject to prosecution. So what he's saying is, in this particular unique, discrete case, we are recommending no prosecution, in spite of the fact of finding classified secret emails on a personal private server that was not secure. In fact, more than one server, several servers, in spite of finding that thousands of emails had been deleted, and that they, as Catherine Herridge said, we put together this jigsaw puzzle to find all of this. That's why it took so long. So in a political way, the fallout here is tremendous, because there will be issues about character, trust, conscience, credibility, and the ability to act in a way that is in the best interest of the United States. And clearly, I think the FBI director was concerned about the best interest of the United States in terms of the vulnerabilities that they could not detect based on the time and the way this data was now kept. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Melissa. Before we ran out of time, I wanted to ask you one more question, because there had been talk of this other case in the background, that there were two tracks that were being pursued. One was, the email, the mishandling of the information, but the other one was this possible public corruption with any of the information that showed up on the emails in some way, indict, whether it was through the speeches of their foundation, that is tracked. Not even addressed today?
That was not addressed
what
today.
What did I tell you?
Well, the FBI director said that was, he didn't specify that was one of the areas of inquiry. They looked to see whether there had been foreign hacking. They looked to see whether there had been compliance with the law in terms of classified materials. There was nothing with regard to the foundation, and there was nothing with regard to Benghazi, even though Attorney General Lynch the other day, in responding to questions about the Clinton plane fiasco, talked about, well, we didn't discuss Benghazi. So the focus of the FBI director and the agents, the great agents of the FBI, was not either on the foundation or on Benghazi. And that is interesting, because a lot of press reports have said across all the networks that, in fact, that was part of the inquiry. That apparently was not part of the inquiry at all.
Peter Johnson Jr., thank you so much for your insight. I want to bring it. Hillary Clinton may have her work cut out for her, her team acknowledging she needs to win back voters' trust. So it is now time to bring in the Fox News political insiders, Pat Goodell, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter, a Fox News contributor, John LeBoutillier, former Republican congressman for New York, and Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton and a Fox News contributor. Welcome to you all. What a week. I mean, your people on Twitter and all of us have been waiting to hear what you all have to say. So I want to start with you, Doug. Sure. Obviously, we've been talking and reporting about the FBI interview with Hillary Clinton yesterday amid a holiday weekend. Sure. And then, of course, what happened with the former president meeting up with the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, on the tarmac. So, a lot of people say this is something that people have been talking about, the trust issues. This is bringing up a lot of that for
There are a lot of trust
the public.
But there are other issues. There were some media reports today that, in after the FBI interview, 3-hour interview, that Hillary had been exonerated by the Justice Department. That raises more questions than it answers. First, the credibility of the report, of course,
hasn't been verified.
but also the idea that the Justice Department could leak that she, or the FBI, that she'd been cleared without a thorough review of her comments in light of other evidence that's been collected over the last 6 to 9 months. And frankly, we still haven't really digested what happened with President Clinton and Loretta Lynch, and whether she's totally recused herself or not recused herself. So this raises total questions about the entire investigation. Is it political, and where it's going?
I mean, could it even be clear? It wouldn't be done that fast, right?
No.
We wouldn't have an answer that fast.
No. And they've even leaked out another thing that I doubt that they're going to have this all wrapped up before the 2 conventions begin, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. How do we really know? Right? We don't know. We don't know what the FBI has. They have not leaked for a year. The FBI has been very careful about it. Like I said, is the word trust. Do we trust Hillary Clinton? Do we trust Bill Clinton? Do we trust Loretta Lynch? Do we trust Barack Obama? I would say a lot of people are shaking their heads saying, no, I don't trust them. Thank God, in this particular case, there is one person that I think we can trust to be honest and fair, and when this person finally speaks about it, whatever he says, I think will hold. And that's Jim Comey, the director of the FBI, who's above reproach, has no agenda here other than the truth.
He's going to speak?
Yes. Well, he'll speak in an action. He'll either do something, say something, and that will be the key to this case.
I want to bring in Pat Goodell, who's joining us on satellite right now. Pat, I want you to weigh in on this, and the timing, too. The timing of this all seems, you know, it comes on a 4th of July weekend. It happened very quickly, 3.5 hours in front of the FBI, and then it appears that's the only amount of time she's going to spend with the FBI.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty long session. Look, I don't worry about the timing over the weekend. It's a good time to do it. It's a holiday, I guess, for her. But look, let's deal with the real fact. This has been an effort by the President of the United States directly and his subordinates to rig this system for her. And it's just, it's incredible. And Bill Clinton's interference on the tarmac with Lynch proves how disingenuous. This is a Justice Department, remember, that indicted Bob McDonald for crimes, supposed corruption, which were not, vacated unanimously 8-0 by the Supreme Court this week. This is a Justice Department or Injustice Department that went after Robert Mendoza on similar shaky charges because he opposed President Obama on Iran and on Cuba with the articulate person. This Justice Department is worse than Richard Nixon. And we have here, filled with political people, even in permanent appointments. The president himself went out before any of this with Bill Clinton and said she's innocent, said that on this network, and then further endorsed her. The first time in history a candidate under criminal investigation has been endorsed by a president. And he's going to campaign with her. If you don't think the fix is in here, and I think, yes, I depend on Comey. We're talking about just like that lonely prosecutor in the Costas' movie Z in Greece, who was the one person who would stand up for truth. This country hangs by a thread on the eve of the 4th of July, not since 1973 like this, within Comey's hands of whether or not he will do the right thing. Can I say, and Laura, and Doug, that I think that the Bill Clinton-Loretta Lynch thing on Monday has actually enhanced Jim Comey's role here now. I think that he's strengthened when he does ultimately decide whatever the FBI is going to decide. They can't criticize him.
Well, here's the thing, and John's exactly right. The best asset Secretary Clinton has, or had, was Loretta Lynch, appointed judge by Bill Clinton in 1999. Obviously the most sympathetic figure, but by having the meeting that President Clinton prompted, it means that she has effectively taken herself out of the decision-making process. I don't know if the fix is in or not. I don't know if Pat's right, but it smells to high heaven, the whole process.
And isn't there a chance, though, you know, as people say, oh, it's just happenstance, and he just did it? I mean...
All right, so let's look at this thing. Bill Clinton goes on that plane to meet with the Attorney General. The server at question is in his house in Chappaqua. Right. It involves his foundation. His wife is the main target or subject of this investigation, and she's meeting with them. In a proper political setting, the president should fire her immediately for this. Terrible judgment. There's no excuse. To watch her on Friday with Jonathan Capehart, everybody there laughing it up, I wouldn't do it again. Well, you shouldn't get a chance to do it again. Fired now. I think she should have been fired the minute this thing came out. Does this end it?
Well, it doesn't end it until the Attorney General makes a final determination. Legally, politically, there was a lot of language that Donald Trump can and arguably will use going beyond his tweets just sent. But let's get to the bottom line of the politics of it. A huge, huge victory for the Secretary of State. Obviously, this was a close call for the FBI. Obviously, there's language that can and will be used against her. But for her base among Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents, John, it's impossible to call this anything other than the biggest event of the year, including beating Bernie Sanders in the primaries.
Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, has been outspoken about the Clinton email investigation, asking her to come clean about her private server, but also saying recently that Republican lawmakers would probably accept the FBI director's recommendation. So where does he stand now? The congressman joins us here in the studio. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, glad to have you here. Your reaction to Mr. Comey's decision not to move forward with it? Recommendation. So where does he stand now? The congressman joins us here in the studio. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for having you here. Your reaction to Mr. Comey's decision not to move forward?
Confused by it. I did have the opportunity to speak with Director Comey just the last couple hours. I think if you look at the fact pattern, did she or did she not have classified information in an unsecure format that went on for years? The answer is clearly yes.
They got his call because I just gave my little girl $1,100 I had in my account. I said, do they have a call? Because you can go to put it in the bank, but I just gave last money I had my little girl in the account. And you say that, well, you don't still need something to go with that, huh? Well, ask Dave, do he have his own call? Because all you got to do is put money on the call. Because mine, I have on my call. And if Dave can't do that, just tell him, I give you my call, just go to the bank and just put it in there.
So we have a lot of outstanding questions, but no doubt I'm not going to be able to change his mind. But we have to get the American people have a right to know the truth. The answer to any of those outstanding questions. No, some of them he would not refer to. But I still want to learn this information. Now that it's closed, there's really no excuse not to provide that information to Congress.
Do you think, like so many other people in this town, that he is above reproach?
Look, he has the greatest of reputations, a man of great integrity. But if you look at just the basic fact pattern, why not hand that to the prosecutors and let them make the political decision? I wonder if they look back at the former CIA Director Deutsch. This is a person who plugged a computer into the internet. The Department of Justice